Okay guys, here we go. Slopes and rate of change. So, when you guys think of slope, what do you think of? Okay. Slope. A lot of people will say rise over run. A lot of people will say that, okay? Rate of change, same thing, okay? Normally, when they talk about slope, you're talking about just problems like y equals 4x minus 6. They talk about rate of change. It's usually what they use for word problems, but they mean the same thing. If someone says, what's the slope, what's the rate of change, it's the same thing. The same thing. And the formula for this, the letter we use is m, okay? The letter we use is m. And the formula is the difference of your y's divided by the difference of your x's. Okay, and it's based on getting that from an ordered pair. So the ordered pair would be x1 comma y1 and x2 comma y2. Okay, and then again, there's your slope. So it doesn't matter which point you call x1 y1 and x2 y2. What you can't do is you can't call one x1 y2 or x2 y1. Okay. And also here, you can't do y1 minus y2 and x1 minus x2, okay? Best thing to do, I'll show you an example. Say we had 1 and 5 and 3 and 6. Label them. x1, y1, x2, y2. And now you just plug it into the formula. Okay, so the formula says m equals y2, well, that's 6, minus y1, that's 5, over x2, which is 3, minus x1, which is 1. 6 minus 5 is 1. 3 minus 1 is 2. My slope is a half. Okay? Now, what if someone called this x2 and y2 and this one x1 and y1? Well, let's look. So y2 minus y1 would be 5 minus 6 over 1 minus 3, 1 minus 3, negative 1 over negative 2, which equals a half. That shows you that it doesn't matter which point you pick to be x1, y1 or x2, y2. So let me give you one to try. Negative 3, 5, and 2, 1. Okay, I want you to find the slope. Find the slope. Okay, so let's say we did x1, y1, x2, y2, 1 minus 5, 2 minus a negative 3, 1 minus 5 is a negative 4, 2 minus a negative 3 is 2 plus 3, which is 5, so my slope is negative 4/5. Now, when we find slope, there's different things that can happen. Okay? We can have a positive slope. We can have a negative slope. We can have zero slope, or where slope's equal to 0. Or we can have no slope. Okay? So if you have a positive slope, as you look at it from left to right, your points increase, your line increases. Negative slope, as you look at it from left to right, the points fall, okay, or they decrease. Zero slope is when m is equal to 0, and that's when you have a horizontal line. No slope, that's when your slope is undefined, which means you have a number on the top and have a 0 on the bottom. That can't happen in math. You can't divide by 0. And that's an example of a vertical line. Okay, so those are the 4 different types of slope that you can come up with. Continuing with this idea of slope is we have what are called parallel lines. Okay, and if you're missing any of that, just pause the video and go back and get it. You have that ability. Parallel lines. Okay, so parallel lines have the same slope. Okay? Parallel lines have the same slope. And then we have this other idea. Something you covered in geometry. Okay? You should have taken geometry before you got to this course. Let's open. 2 lines are perpendicular. If and only if and only if their slopes are negative reciprocals of each other. Okay? So if I had a line and the slope was 2/3, okay? One that's perpendicular to that, the negative reciprocal. So if this is positive, this has to be negative. Reciprocal means you flip that. So this would be -3/2. If I had this being -4, okay, that means this one's going to be positive. I can think of this being 4/1, so this would be +1/4. Okay? So I'm going to give you a couple of problems where I want you to find the slope and tell me if the lines are parallel, perpendicular, or neither. If the slopes are equal, you say they're parallel. If the slopes are negative reciprocals of each other, you say they're perpendicular. And if they're not equal or not negative reciprocals of each other, you would say neither. Tell whether the lines are parallel, perpendicular, or neither. Go. Okay, so let's take a look and see what you guys got. Okay? So, I want you to, now some of you guys don't put the x1, y1 down. Okay? I want you to time me and tell me how long this takes me to do. Ready? Go. About 4 seconds. Okay? Takes me about an extra 4 seconds to write the x1, y1 and the x2, y2. So I would suggest that you do that. Take the 4 seconds. If you're that busy that you don't have 4 seconds to spare, well, then don't do it. But otherwise, 4 seconds. Talk about 4 seconds here. -1 minus 3 over 3 minus a -3. So it looks like on the top I get -4, on the bottom I get 6, so I get -2/3. -1 minus 3, -4. 3 minus -3, positive 6. Okay, so we go over here. Now I've got x1, y1, x2, y2. 3 minus a -3 over 2 minus a -2. So that's going to be 6 over 4, which is 3 over 2. This is -2/3. This is 3/2. So I would say the lines are perpendicular. The lines are perpendicular. Okay? So that is a little bit from section 2.2. I hope it made sense. If it didn't make sense, send me an email. Okay? I'm going to film section 2.3 next.